Hey guys, so this will be the second lesson that I learned over 2,000 years ago. And it's about the polarity of love and fear. God is love. That's what the Apostle John wrote all those years ago. But God is love. Well, to understand and fully experience love, you have to know the opposite. You have to have the baseline to measure against. And the opposite of love is fear. And so it is truly one of our greatest gifts is to have fear so we can experience love fully. Sometimes, however, we get lost in our fears or we get stuck in our fears and we get down there in this concept. But let's talk for a second about what fear is. Because fear, when you break it down, comes down to negatively focused uncertainty. Think about this for a second. Fear is an emotional reaction to a future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome. Because think about it. If you were focused on a future event and a positive outcome, you wouldn't be afraid. So fear is simply an emotional reaction to negative focus. And so what is negative focus? It's what you think. It's your belief. You believe something's going to happen and you have a reaction to it, an energetic reaction. Now, the interesting thing about this statement is that all that is thought. All that is thought. And Buddha says, what you think you become, you create your world. In the Bible, in Psalms, it says, as a man thinketh, so is he. And the Bhagavad Gita says, what a man believes, so he is. So your thought is creative. Now, I said in the last video about how we are one with everything, and we are literally an energetic, and the world is nothing but an illusion based upon our thought, and our fear gives us the stories that we tell. And what's interesting is that when we live in this fear base, this space of fear, we literally can get lost in fear. We can literally start creating. Now, if I break this out of spirituality and drop it into psychology, your subconscious mind is a storehouse of present moment experiences in memory. And so you have a list of these memories back here, which creates an underlying subconscious belief. And that underlying subconscious belief, over time, the more you focus negatively, gets more and more negative. Now, I'm sure many of you probably know negative people. Maybe some of you are negative people. But you ever notice that a negative person always has something to be negative about? The reason this is because they're focused on negativity. And so they're seeing negativity. They're focused on their fears. They're focused on a fearful world. And what's interesting is the subconscious mind has two jobs. The first job is to collect those memories and create that underlying subconscious belief. The other job that the subconscious mind is to show you what you're focused on. And I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, you wanted to buy a car, and you chose what kind of car you liked. You had one in mind. You were ready. But did you notice once you made that choice, you started seeing that car everywhere? Once you start focusing on something, it starts being shown to you. You know, your subconscious mind, the universe, God, is not against you. It gives you exactly what you want. And if you think about it biblically, whatever you ask in God's name is granted. It does not say whatever you ask in God's name, if it's positive, is granted. It does not say that. Whatever you ask. How do you ask? You ask with your thought, with your belief. There's not a specific method of asking. You don't have to do it a certain way. What you believe is you asking. And so if you ask for negative, you are going to see negative. If you ask for positive, you're going to see positive. If you think the world is negative, you're going to think that into reality. You're going to bring that into your personal reality. And the thing is, you don't have to. You can live in a very positive world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about, whatever happens, good or bad, is good, period. Because it's just life experience. And I've known people who have been in say you get in high school in a class and you have you have those people who get up there and they go up there and they look like complete fools of themselves and they laugh and they think it's funny. And nobody thinks the worst of them. But you get the same person who gets up there who thinks that they're messing up or afraid that these people are going to think poorly of them. And it never ends up being a good experience because that's what they're focused on. So you have to stay focused on the positive. You have to stay focused on not being afraid. Focus on the loving outcome. Focus on being love, being God, being the source, being, as my co-host on Spirit Cafe would say, yada, yada. You want to be in that space of just being love. And there are going to be times in your life where things are going to come along, but you have to realize those things that are coming along, even though they may seem totally contrary to what you want, those things that come along are just illusions as well. They're just things to make you think, make you go, okay, how are you going to react to this? How are you going to do this? So you want to look at your world from a perspective of releasing fear. In the Vaka Namrut, they were talking to Swami Narayan, and they asked him several things. And one of the stories in there that I always found fascinating, well, there's two stories. I'll tell you them both quickly. Swami Narayan, for those of you who don't know, was a Hindu guru who reached enlightenment at the age of 13 or 12 or something, very, very, very young. And his parents were dead, and he did a 13,000-kilometer trek around India. He literally walked the entire country, and at one point he crossed over the Himalayas, and he came down the other side. Now, Swami Narayan was famous for only wearing a loincloth, and he actually looked like, if you want to give him a modern interpretation, he looked like Mowgli from Jungle Book. That's the picture they show you of him as a child. And he crossed over the Himalayas and he came down the other side, and somebody said to him, "How did you not freeze walking through the snow on the top?" And his response was, "Because I am without fear, cold does not affect me." Another story, he came into a village at dusk, and the village had been plagued by a man-eating lion who was coming at night and literally attacking and killing and eating the villagers. And he arrived at the village at dusk as a little boy, and then the villagers were saying, come into my house for tonight so you won't be eaten by the lion. And he said, "No, I'm fine." And they came out the next morning, and Swami Narayan was sitting next to a tree, and about 5 feet away, sound asleep, was the lion. And they asked him, "How come the lion didn't eat you?" He says, "Because I, without fear, he gave me nothing to be fearful for." Fear is a prevalent thing in our world, but it's only prevalent in our world because we choose to think about it. We choose to put that fear base into the environment that we're living. I said earlier that Jesus said, "Whatever you ask in God's name is granted." But when you go back further into the Old Testament or the Torah, if you're looking, the Jewish faith, Moses climbed up to Mount Sinai, and he got to the top of Mount Sinai and he talked to the burning bush. And at the end of the conversation, he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And the burning bush said, "I am." I am. What is I am? I am is a present moment thought. So God's name is I am. Whatever you ask in God's name is granted. So what are you thinking and declaring about yourself? I said earlier, your prayer, whatever you're asking is through your belief, through your thought. You don't have to have a form. So I am depressed. I am sad. I am poor. I am weak. I am angry. I am, is asking God for those things. And what you need to do is realize that you can change the narrative. You can change what you ask for just by getting yourself focused on a positive outcome. Get yourself focused on creating lovingly. I am joyfully living, sharing what I've learned. I am happily enjoying the time with my life, with my family. I am lovingly relaxing on the beach. I am. Whatever you decide to put there. But the interesting thing is, if you back up, your thoughts create. Now, if we jet back way up, the beginning of Genesis talks about, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I want you to think about that for a second. In the beginning is the Word. Your words. Your words are your thoughts, words, and deeds, right? You think words, you say words, and you act upon the words that you have thought and said, right? Thoughts, words, and deeds. So in the beginning is the Word, the thing that you are working towards. And that Word, in the beginning is the Word, and the Word was with God. And so your thoughts, words, and deeds go out to this energetic source, this love, this pure energy that is God. And then the source, God, yada, yada, forms that image around you in this pure energy. And the Word was God. And so you just have to look in this moment and go, I am joyful. I am loving. I am caring. I am helpful. I am of service. If those are the things that make you feel good, that's the key to it all. You want to feel good about who you are, what you do, and what you're bringing into the world. And if you can put yourself into a space where you're feeling good about it, many people feel stagnant. Many people feel stuck. Many people feel as if they'll never get ahead. Many people feel judged. And many people live in victimhood because of their past experiences with family, friends, or others. You have to realize that you are in a space where you get to create your experience. I've often said to people that I believe addiction is simply medicating fear. Because if you think about it, right, someone lights up a cigarette, they're addicted to cigarettes, they light up a cigarette, and they allow themselves to relax. They allow themselves to be put into a positive state, right? And talk to somebody who's a drinker, an alcoholic, and they get a drink in their hand, and they go, oh, and they allow themselves to be in a positive state, right? Someone who is a pizzaholic gets their first slice of pizza, oh, that's so good, right? They allow themselves to be in a positive state. Over time, because they don't believe in their self, they start putting power in the substance. So they're just medicating their fears. But the reality of it is, if they would just give themselves a breathing break and sit outside and go, it feels so good, and give themselves that positive reinforcement, they could change their addiction very quickly simply by saying, I love being outside. I love, breathing. Take a breathing break and get addicted to breathing, because breathing is amazing. That's why they call it the breath of God. You want to think about this. Every spiritual tradition in the world has breathing in it somewhere, And if you want to release fear, the number one way you release fear is by exhaling. Because scientifically, we have a primal response to fear. And the first thing that happens when somebody gets afraid, the first thing they say is, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Well, the interesting thing about that is scientifically, it's not that they can't breathe. It's that their body is storing air so they can run further and faster. Because the first thing that happens when something scary happens is we go, and we suck in as much air as we possibly can. That is a natural primal response that every animal on Earth has. I know many of you probably have watched National Geographic shows on TV, and if you have, you know that every episode has a doomed gazelle. There's a gazelle that's doomed from the outset. And that gazelle's out there, he's eating grass in the field, kind of looks like this. And then suddenly the predator cat hits the field, and that gazelle goes, and gasps for air. And if you're a parent and you have children, when they were very, very young, you saw them almost fall or hurt themselves or burn their hand on something, I'll bet you $10 you went, and you gasped for air because you were filling your lungs so you can run further and faster or run to your child. That's a natural primal fear response. Here's the interesting thing, is you can turn that off by exhaling. Actors on Broadway are trained that if they forget their lines, they're literally trained to go and relax all their muscles. And they get a feeling inside. And that feeling inside feels good. But then the next thing that happens is all of their lines rush back into their head. Because when you go into a fear response, it shuts off your cognitive thinking brain and what you think you become. And when you're in fear, you can't think. So you need to keep your thoughts on the positive. And when something seems fearful, exhale it out. Let it go. Because that is just fear, and fear is simply negatively focused uncertainty. So all you really need to do is breathe it out, exhale, and get back to thinking positive. Fear goes away. You know, in Sufism, they talk about God being on one side of a veil, and we're on the other side of the veil. And we struggle, our life is to struggle against the veil, and the veil is our fear. And what happens is the less fear you have, the thinner the veil. And so go out there today, make your veil thinner by just choosing to create positively. Realize that it's the I am moment, not the I will be or I was moment. Be right here, right now, and live fearlessly, because that's how you make it to the what you're looking for. That's how you make it to God's source. That's how you make it to the next level of your own spirituality. Just realizing that the next level is the only level, and that's love. And so live lovingly, and you'll experience exactly what you've always wanted, exactly why you're here. Have a great day, my friends, and I'll talk to you soon. See you. Bye.